Hey everyone, welcome to the tasting table. We got a real fun episode for you today, but first, I'm Chandler.
I'm James.
And remember to like, comment, subscribe. Be ready for the Was That in Good Taste episodes. We got a whole handful of them coming up. But
also don't forget, I seen that over 99% of the people who see this aren't subscribed. So
they should try subscribing.
You really should.
Reason we got a
Anchor.fm.
Anchor.fm.
Oh no, it's not that anymore.
Wait, what?
Spotify for podcasters.
Sick. Spotify for podcasters. Shouts out. The reason we got a real fun special episode today is because we are trying some white whiskeys. And we got one that's from Glendalough. This is a pretty popular Irish whiskey here in the East Coast, Americas, on the west side of the hemispheres. This one clocks in at, what's that, 60% alcohol, and it's made with malted barley, wheat, and beer. It's a pretty neat whiskey, and then on this side, we actually don't know where it came from. It's a big old mystery whiskey that has been unaged, but we do know that given our thorough lab testing, it is 63%. That's 126 proof. Its mash bill is majority cracked wheat with a little bit of malted rye. There's also about a teaspoon of yeast nutrient used in a Saison Belgian ale yeast. And it also had about a half a teaspoon of amylase enzyme to help convert some of the grain starches into sugars to ease some of the fermentation process. But we don't know too much about this with mystery whiskey.
Wow, that's wow. We know so little much about that.
Don't even know. It just kind of showed up in
wherever it came from. Wherever this came from, whoever made that is handsome and pretty and talented,
and is looking forward to making some more and distributing it anonymously. Not distributing it, just consuming it anonymously. Anywho,
so this would be a white whiskey or so this like the first step in the distilling process of whiskey before the first major step, the first third.
This is whiskey before it's whiskey. Couple more distillations and you end up with vodka. Run it through with some juniper berries, you end up with gin. Put it in a barrel for a little bit. You got yourself a whiskey. Now, this one in particular can never become a bourbon, no matter how hard it tries. However, this one also could never become a bourbon, no matter how hard it tries. But if it did want to be a bourbon, it would have to have a 51% corn percentage on the mash bill, and then go through the various barreling.
And how much is in this mash bill again?
No corn. It is pretty much all wheat, and then some beer, and then some malted barley. So it's an Irish whiskey. They don't really fuck with corn too much, except for that Kilbeggan single grain that we tried.
Yeah.
That one's much more in a bourbon style. Yeah. But this
it was pretty sweet too. So yeah,
Glendalough has a couple of different whiskeys on their portfolio. They have a 3-year, I believe. There's like the general rule of threes with Irish whiskeys, typically made with pot stills, and then the 3 different grains, distilled 3 times, and then aged 3 years. Now that's not rules. That's just like your
guidelines.
Your guidelines. Suggestions. This is actually called, so it's a essentially Irish moonshine, but it's poitin is the way it's pronounced, and it's mountain strength, crafted in small batches, and then finished in virgin Irish oak. So it just has just a little touch of aging in it to kind of get some of that ethanol to settle down. Some of those fusel alcohols will evaporate off. Then in our mystery shine here, that one's pretty young, actually. It hasn't really been aged. It did get a couple burps,
Okay.
where it was just kind of left to aerate with with a little bit of ventilation, so that some of the extra alcohols that are like right out of the
Yeah, of course.
out of the still get to evaporate off, and
The moonshine burps.
kind of help balance out some of the off flavors. So let's go ahead and taste the Glendalough poutine first. Got quite a nose on it. What do you think?
When it comes to tasting liquors, let's not forget the rules. You're not trying to taste it for its specific flavors because it tastes like distilled liquor because that's what it is.
Like alcohol. Like
The question is, what does it remind you of when you smell it? Like I'm gonna stick my nose in it.
it kind of reminds me, because I already got a good
Ooh.
nostril full. It's giving
Sweet.
a bit sweet, almost like a pear kind of sweet, or like a green fruit, like a Granny Smith, or like or like a
Clear.
what's the one that you usually get, that's like, I think you get it from Mr. Lime or
Mr. Mango.
Mr. Mango, and it's like in the pouch, and
It's a pear.
no, it's a bunch of little fruits that you kind of like you bite.
Canepas.
Yeah.
Oh, something green, like in the lychee family.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Because it's sweet, kind of creamy.
Kind of creamy, not sweet, and like the lime kind of sweetness. Because
just gonna cheat and read
it's
the
not
bottle
citrusy,
again.
in my opinion, but it also has a bit of like a sea breeze kind of salinity to it. I'm gonna give it a little taste. Well, you wanna read to the class,
Man.
about some of the descriptors?
All right, let's say here. It says, here comes off the glasses. Let's see. It doesn't really. Aha. World-class craftsmanship, along with unique distillation, which they don't tell us, and maturation process. So when they say that, that means that they don't mature it by just sitting in the barrel. They means they do some dumb shit.
They probably just pour it over
Yeah, it's probably over wood chips or something like that.
staves.
Using malted barley, sugar beet, and virgin Irish oak. Got you. So after they make it, they pretty much just seep it in a vat of wood chips, sugar beet discardings, like probably like the stems and stuff like that, and malted barley.
Interesting.
Which would
it does have a sweetness
explain
to it.
why it's so sweet on the nose. Right? When you give it a whiff, it's like super sweet,
Mhm.
right? And it's candy like. But what's the candy? It doesn't really smell like a fruit that you'd recognize. But
Right.
beets can be very sweet
It
and
has
very earthy.
It has a very earthy sweetness to it, less like a citrusy, less like a banana-y one. Because we've tried overproof liquors before. We have the Ray and Nephew Jamaican rum, and then we also have Smith and Cross.
Okay, you know what? Taste it again. And this is I realized this, so taste it.
Okay.
Right, just take a regular sip. I didn't even do anything fancy. I took a sip. After you swallow it, taste it on your tongue, you realize you're tasting completely beets. If anything, it's actually leaving a slight texture on my tongue. Beets.
Bears.
It's literally
Battlestar Galactica.
beets.
That is the earthiness.
That is what it is. It's literally like I'm tasting beets or beet juice.
Oh, you know what we should do with this? Because we tried it with the other moonshine. You do this little thing, the little number where you just kind of.
Yes.
So a good way. I watched this on the what's it called? The bourbon documentary on Hulu, where they're doing some examples of how to taste moonshines and still strength whiskeys straight off the still, without just completely blowing out your palate. And instead, you use it just a touch like hand sanitizer, and you kind of rub it in your hands a little bit to activate some of the esters and some of the smells and stuff. And then you just give your hands a quick smell.
Earthiness. sweetness. The minute that I understood that it was beets, maybe I influenced myself, but I do not believe so. The influence of the beets is so significant.
I'm really trying to pull any other flavor other than beets, but you're right. It's
Literally, it tastes like
it's just earthy.
it tastes like a beet gin.
yeah.
Because the thing about beets is that I don't know about you, but I don't love beets, right? So I don't eat a lot of beets, especially not the canned beets.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not super familiar with beet flavors so much as I am with the smells of beets because, like, I'll sniff a bunch of fruit at a grocery store. I'm that guy. I'm that guy rolling in who's like, "Where are the navel oranges at? Let me get my nosies and those toesies." And
That's so wild how
But-
how much of you can taste. It tastes like
But you don't
eating
get
the stem of a broccoli.
it's
It's sweet.
but it doesn't have much other flavor beyond that. I think.
No, I agree.
And that's
But again, it's it's literally clear. They soaked it. Okay, you know what I'm getting? It's not fair. Kind of on the back end, I'm getting this warmth in my mouth. It feels like kind of like it just feels like like I drink some liquor, right? It's the smoke from the oak
I don't know, man,
or from the wood chips.
because even then, I would expect to get a little bit of that feeling of like walking down the Home Depot lumber section, and I don't get any of that.
No, it's not significant because it's not charred.
Mm.
So it's like
It's
chewing.
just-
It's like just like a whiff of it, but it's very light. It's very subdued. This is
Whiff of
definitely
oak.
beat forward, which I think is very interesting.
But you don't even get too much of the malted barley, which I'm kind of surprised with when it's like when it talks about the stuff that's on the mash bill.
But I think the barley affects the. Oh God, I'm fucking disgusting. What I'm about to say is so disgusting.
Oh wait, no, wait, no, wait,
What?
no. I can't read sometimes, so I thought it said with malted barley and beer. It doesn't say beer. It says fermented beet. That's what
Oh.
it's made with. Oh, that's why I'm not getting so many grains.
That explains
It's
a lot.
It's mostly beet with some malt. So this is actually probably more akin to an Irish overproof rum than it is a whiskey because of the beet. Like it's not a lot of grain. There's not a lot of grain in this
That
at
makes
all.
that makes so much sense.
But it doesn't claim to be a whiskey. Nor does it it says it's a pooch. It's
What proof is this again?
this is 120 proof.
So we're drinking 120 proof alcohol.
It's a concoction. It's a potion. It's a poutine.
Woo! And this mystery guy,
And this mystery guy, which is
we don't know where it came from. I don't think we landed this home. Hi there, guys. You're watching the tasting table with James and Chandler, and we have here a moonshine made by someone. Who that someone is,
we'll
don't
never know.
know. I don't know. I don't know who made it.
All we know is that it was distilled on March 16th.
Like different. So
Different.
what's the mash bill of this guy here?
Mash bill of this guy is 60% cracked wheat, and that cracked wheat had been in storage for a little bit, and then malted rye, which is probably another 35%, let's say.
Let's say.
And then that extra 5% in the middle there to just kind of make sure everything was on the up and up was a combination of sugarcane and brown sugar. And just kind of make sure that it all reached the highest capacity it can be. So now you're doing the hands test on that one. What are you getting from that? Because I'm gonna do a little tasty taste.
It's
of
like smelling the wheat bread at Subway.
Ooh, at Subway.
Yeah, it's sweet. You know, it has like the smell of like somebody's like, here's some oat smell, and it's sweet.
It does kind of taste like if you put your head inside of a buffet oatmeal pot. Ooh. Ooh, that's
yeah.
kinda,
This is
honestly, you know, I can't really show favoritism because the other applicant's anonymous, but I kind of like this one more. It's got more flavor.
so now
up
we have
front.
to talk small batch because it says small batch.
How
but-
small batch?
But
is,
like
you want to talk small batch? We could talk small batch.
because definitely I think a lot of times just like with food at home, when you make stuff at home, whoever made it, not saying one of us made it,
However, it was made.
when you make stuff at home, it can be better because you can take more time. You can spend more per portion, right, than in a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
They say small batch. How you small batch in 10,000 bottles?
It's true. And then how are you exporting that small batch
Yeah,
globally?
How you small batch into California? You
But-
know,
But, you know, like how much variation is there really? Like, as long as all of the ingredient proportions are the same. Like a small batch is a small batch until you buy it from someone else, really.
oh, then it's not small batch anymore.
Then it's not small batch. Because if you're getting,
Or you have your own infrastructure.
if you're like, I don't know, Jim Beam or something, and you're like the big guy and people are buying their juice from
But
you
they
to
do-
age their own.
But they do small batch. They
They do have their small batch.
But
their
like, is
version.
that even really small batch if you have like the largest amount of acreage of land and you just put like another building on it and you're like, this is the small batch building for our rotating.
This is
you know.
kind of the existential question for whiskeys, especially in America, is what do labels actually mean? Because you could say small batch, it doesn't mean shit until it says single barrel, but even single barrel only means part of the story.
Yeah, it only means so much.
How much of the story of the way this juice was made do you get to know?
Very little.
Very little.
Like,
You-
are the people who
we don't
are-
even know the
are-
proportions of the mash bill.
That's true.
We
Are-
just know that there is some fermented beet and some malted barley.
are the people who are harvesting the beets paid equitably? Do they take care of the beets so they're not rotten before they're like chopped up and thrown onto the pile?
Do they talk to the beets so that they get the most amount of positive energy into the soil?
There was a piece of news I saw that's probably not real, but about like avocado oil. And then like they did a bunch of studies like, oh, the avocado oil is made with rotten fucking avocado bits, most of them, right? No matter if they say organic, no matter if they say first press, no matter if they say any of that, whatever the fuck, the avocado oil, most of them are just like bad, right?
Yeah, but isn't
You don't know.
it also pasteurized though?
I don't fucking know.
I don't. If I were in the avocado oil industry, I would pasteurize my oils.
Maybe it is. I don't fucking know shit about olive oil.
I don't know.
When it comes to these things, just like when you get supplements and they have like proprietary blends, you don't know what the fuck this is. You actually have no idea. Like with monkey shoulder, we had this conversation a long time ago.
Oh, the
We
whiskey.
had
Yeah.
one bottle, and then we had another,
Mm-hmm.
and they were very different. And we read the back, and it's like, oh, it's like some of their whiskeys blended. What whiskeys?
Which ones?
Which ones?
Tell us.
How much
Let me
of
know.
each one?
Let the people know. What are you hiding?
So
Monkey
like,
shoulder.
this could literally just be the most simple. Like, oh, they say distilled beets. What if it was like literally one beet, and then it's literally just like a clear like wheat.
I think we would tell if it were more
no,
malted barley.
because then they soaked it in a thing of beets.
And then
So like
we had one
literally,
beet.
it could be vodka effectively soaked in wood chips and beets, and you wouldn't know because they don't have to fucking tell you. And I'm not trying to get conspiracy
They don't
theory,
have to tell you shit.
but they don't have to tell you, right? Which is why when you do these things at home, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but if you take your time and you do them right, they'll often come off better, especially because you know what's in it. You can control the proportions.
And you kind of get to be the guide along the way. The only real danger that comes with doing it at home is sometimes your equipment just isn't. You don't have enough down investment in your equipment to get, one, the most amount of yield, or two, keep everything as professionally sanitary as possible, but also having worked a week at a distillery, sometimes
a week.
Sometimes sanitation just there's a difference between sanitized and serve safe.
Why is it spicy?
Why is it? It's spicy because it's good.
Damn.
Actually, the spice is the rye. Like you know that's the.
No, it is.
Yeah, you are familiar and aware with rye whiskey.
It tastes like I'm just chewing rye. You ever seen a wheat whiskey? What the fuck does that even mean? Like you see that and you think you know what that means, but you don't really because it just has the word wheat on it.
Well, okay, but I really like a wheated bourbon.
I love that. Do you ever just see like a bottle of whiskey that says the word wheat on it?
Couple times.
What does it mean? How much wheat? Isn't there wheat in pretty much every single whiskey that exists? Almost, not all, but like the most popular types, frequently.
Wait, wheat and barley are different.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Wheat and rye are different.
Yes, but I feel like
wait, what about cereal grains? Is that just an
cereal
umbrella
grains,
term?
It is, but I think cereal grains would be like mixed grains. But there are cereal grains like groats, like oats and things like that. Those are cereal grains.
There's one that I'm curious about. Millet.
Okay, millet. Fuck, I was reading up on this. I think that's also a cereal grain. I know it's like small and it's like pebbles.
Cause Koval, which I believe we tried their 4-grain recently.
Yes, yeah, we did. Oh, wow.
It was a single barrel. I was doing a little research, and they have a millet grain single barrel that I'm kind of curious about. But what's kind of, I don't know, unless it says 100% whatever on the mash or on the label, really, in order to just say that it's made with any particular grain, it just has to have 51% of that grain. Like a rye whiskey only has to have 51% rye in order to be considered rye whiskey. But like that doesn't mean shit if it's exactly at 51% and then the other 49% is a very different tasting.
I mean, for rye it matters because rye is
for
very
rye,
strong.
yeah.
But like for wheat,
so this brings up another question that I have to cut you off with. There's up the street, there's Bitters and Esters, and they sell home brewing equipment because it is totally on the up and up to make your own beers and ciders and wines at home. FYI. But
not whatever this is, by whomever this is.
Right. They have chocolate rye and various other types of or degrees of malted rye. Chocolate rye has nothing to do with cocoa, cacao, or any variation of chocolate. It just has to do with how roasted the rye is. But I've always been curious about getting into like the really dark roast ryes to see if you can get that kind of cardamom flavor to come out.
Ooh.
Or not cardamom, coriander flavor. But
I could taste it the minute you started saying it.
If you do a rye like that and you use like 4 different types of malted rye, it's gonna have a much different flavor than an actual like whatever single grain.
Also, probably the cheapest, like the filler rye, like that matters.
Mm-hmm. The catcher in the rye.
So that's one of the problems when it comes to buying liquor like this, especially things that are interesting, because you don't know what it is exactly that you're buying.
Yeah.
Oh, do I have to do it?
But the problem with these other mystery ones is you may know exactly what's gone into it, but you don't necessarily have the equipment to know exactly what's come out of it. And so, like, you can take it to our experts at the lab.
So I poison myself. That's what you said.
And they can run all the tests and experiments to give you exactly what percentage of what has gone into it. But unless you have the infrastructure to do the type of tastings or the type of filtrations That's really
The special, like they seriously just have, and these exist in the scientific. It's like hot winds, but for
yeah.
liquor.
Hooah!
Like you can filter out specific chemicals, colors, things from liquid solutions, right? So like you can pass liquor or anything through certain types of filters and filter out very specific things. It's the future. And you can't really do that at home. So unless you are, and people who do a lot of home distilling, I know I've seen like the subreddits and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you do enough math, you can figure out what's coming out the other end by heavily controlling your input
And taking tests along the way.
and testing along the way. But doing it at home is very difficult. And if you are doing it, you should be very careful and you should not wing it. You should find a reputable source.
Do your due diligence and research. Use as much copper tubing as you can because copper is a natural what is it, toxin
Pulls
or
out poisons and
detoxifying
stuff.
What else? Make sure that you sanitize all your equipment.
Wash your hands under your fingernails too.
Yeah.
Nasty.
I think whoever made this moonshine, if they were to change their operation in the future,
What would they do?
they would probably invest in some more efficient equipment.
In Minecraft.
And they would also really, really want to try a barreling. You know, try a little barrel aging. And if it's small batch, you can get a small barrel and just kind of keep in mind the proportions of surface area to liquid in your barreling. In fact, we might want to keep an eye out in the future for any potential new drop-offs of, you know,
Random.
we're like the fire department, but instead of babies, we get moonshine.
One day, we're going to shoot a special video showing you the liquor drop-off that we have in the back of the $1,500 million compound.
Mm-hmm.
It's right back there.
It's very fortified.
Our very own Tate Fortress. But it's like the opposite. Instead, we encourage like sex workers to do a good job, and they step on us. I don't know,
Dude,
not me. I don't like that.
It would be so cool to own a distillery or to just have proper distilling equipment for like professional or not but even just like at the small batch level. Because you see this says small batch and it's still like, I don't know, 100+ gallons
100%, yeah.
per batch. And just to be able to produce at that kind of volume, one, it would be terrifying, but also it would be so invigorating.
There's a master distiller somewhere watching this, being like, they don't understand what they're talking about. 100 gallons. That's just the right amount to be so much that it's difficult to maintain and manage, but way below any amount that would allow for most conventional. So I had to build my own pot still,
But that's
out of pennies.
That's the spirit.
And
That's the spirit of the spirit, is to build your own fucking still.
that has to be our
Don't build your own still.
and that's the spirit.
And that's the spirit.
And that's the way
Catch the spirit.
the cookie
Catch the
crumbles.
myth. Should we close it up?
Yes.
So we've done our tastings. We got we got a
Oh
little
my-
bit more. Yeah,
you
I'm gonna
poured-
make you do it.
You poured so much.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we saw it on camera and so that we could do a full, like, actually tasting the table. We already did the rough one. Sorry, we already did the robust one.
We're trying to avoid saying the word smooth and rough because they're not really descriptive.
It's not.
Though to be fair,
To be
if we say it, to be fair, you understand what it means. So we can use it.
Some of us are some of them are just easier to drink than others. I'm gonna be honest. My final assessment of the two, the compare and contrast, the Glendalough has less to keep me interested, but more to keep me drinking. whereas the Anonymous has dynamics, dimensions. It's got accelerandos. It's got crescendos.
And I have an opinion, though.
Yeah.
I think that it's obvious that the quality of this distilling is not to this quality. This, because obviously this is done with more professional equipment over here.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean, whoever distilled this.
Whoever. They
I
wouldn't
think
take offense or anything.
there was some kind of like settling going on here. Like the flavor
Settling.
of what was on top was different than what was more on the bottom. And I'm wondering if that's because while we can't see it, there is maybe more particulate in here.
No, the distiller explicitly told me in an anonymous telegram that they filtered it through coffee filters multiple times, and it is twice distilled.
Coffee filters, Chandler,
Mm-hmm.
have big old holes. They might look really tiny,
But they're so tiny, though.
but they're definitely bigger than what you'd need to filter this. You'd have to use the multiple coffee filter technique repeatedly.
What about if in the future they used like the coffee filter activated charcoal technique?
Yes, because that is 100% the way. Because it'll pull everything out. Also, could run it through a copper tube. Also,
Well, it did run through a copper tube.
but I mean, like
Another
do
one?
it again. Fuck it. Also,
Okay.
then throw that shit into an empty Coke can and give it a spin.
A Coke can?
An empty one.
An empty
An empty
Coke
and
can?
clean one to give it that tinny taste.
That's true. You do.
Oh, I don't
I'll
want to
throw-
do it.
Bottoms up. Thank you for joining us on the tasting table. My name has been Chandler,
I'm James.
and bottoms up.
What was fuck?
That's the spirit.
That's the spirit. There we go, chum.
Oh, giddy up. Oh.
Woo. How's that going?
I feel clean, but dirty at the same time.
That was tasting table ASMR.
I can feel my tongue salivating.